Hey friend, quick pause. My book, Studio Staffing Success, is officially published. If you're tired of staffing feeling heavier than it should, this is a super practical resource you can start using right away. Grab it on Amazon, Studio Staffing Success by yours truly, Ginger Haithcox. This is the time of year when so many of us are working on planning our performances. Today's episode features Kaylee and Abby from Prosody Performance Management, and they're going to be talking about creating recital consistency. Let's get to today's episode. What I want to do first is introduce you guys. If you could tell us a little about yourselves and your wonderful company and what you do.
I'm Kaylee Ashe, and my partner here is Abby Stewart. And we are lovers of dance and been in this industry for our whole lives, basically. We love recital planning. That's kind of what I have come to love the most. And so that's what we do. We help studios plan really smooth recitals with our app and system that we have, Prosody Backstage.
With Prosody Backstage, it's an all-in-one studio and recital management software platform that is designed really to make your life easier. But when we actually started it, we started by focusing on the recital planning. That was the initial start of the app, and now it's expanded. But like that's really important. We feel like it's such an important part of like your studio and your is that recital and how that reflects your studio.
Yeah, as my husband says, it's kind of our Super Bowl. This is
Yeah.
our big moment where we get to show off the big highlight of our season. So today we're going to talk about a repeatable recital experience that feels organized for the families, for the customers, and manageable for staff. Um, when we talk about creating this consistent experience, what does that look and feel like for the families?
I think it starts off with having a system that you implement every year that has the same approach so that um, it becomes clearly outlined what your timeframes are, what your deadlines are, and then also the communication that you're having with your families. If that can start to become consistent year after year, it's just everyone, people like it when they understand what's going on, that they have the expectation and they know what to expect. That's huge for keeping everyone happy, I guess, if you will, and keeping it less stressful for sure.
Yeah, it looks like everyone knowing what the processes are, knowing the expectations, knowing where to find information. And as a parent, I mean, I have 5 kids myself. I like knowing what's happening with my kids. I want to know where they're at, who's watching them, when I need to get them somewhere, when do I need to pick them up, and it's having everyone be on the same page without unnecessary surprises. As a parent, you want to feel safe and comfortable with where you're taking your kid. And so that consistency for the recital experience, which is this can be a really big and new thing for a lot of parents, and to having that kind of safety net is really helpful for our families.
So, what are the biggest benefits you see when a studio nails consistency year after year?
I think one of the biggest ones I see is retention. You know, you get, I have, because on the flip side of that, I've heard so many times where parents leave studios because they get frustrated. They don't understand the process. They feel, I don't know, like too many costume fees or surprised by the amounts or whatever it is that they're just, I feel like you lose parents when you don't have that really clearly laid out. So retention to me is a really big one because you want to build your studio. And that is one of the ways that you do it is by having that consistency year after year.
Another one is less stress. We are all wearing a lot of hats, studio owners, not only as a business person, but also as a member of your family. So you're wearing all these different hats, and the more that you can be consistent, the more that you have things planned, that you have things delegated, that you know what's going to happen. You don't have that constant nervous system flaring up like you're getting chased by a bear. So definitely less stress when we have all of those systems in place.
And I think tying into that is also just that once you have that laid out, Because as a studio owner, there's so many things you have to manage and do. It's not just teaching a class or teaching technique. There's just so many things that go into that. But when you have a system in place that's working, that's consistent, it allows you then to focus really on what matters most to you. What's the whole reason, the motivation for having the studio in the first place? What was it that motivated you to do that? Keeping your joy. And so you're able to focus on what matters most. And I think it just helps alleviate a lot of that unnecessary stress that you carry otherwise.
When you mentioned the retention piece, that's really huge because most recitals fall at natural drop off points, whether it's the end of a school year or the end of the year, like in a holiday show example. And that's when studios, in my experience, find that students are dropping or they're trying other activities when they're dropping off for the holidays or at the end of the season and now they're going into the summer. So super important to have that lasting impression there. Um,
100%.
so now, if we map the journey from the first recital announcement to show day, what are the key touch points that must be consistent?
So for me, those touch points first is timeline. Have that schedule out. When are your due dates? When is your dress rehearsal? When do you need to have your costumes ordered by? Having that first touch point of your timeline, really mapping it out. And so you're not surprised by anything and you can organize your to-do list accordingly. The second would be communication. How are you communicating all this information? You could have a wonderful recital all up in your head, but we need to be able to communicate that out to our staff and to our families. And then the third one would be the processes and systems in place to get that communication out. Like, what does it all look like? So those are kind of like the three major touch points that um, you need to consider as you're trying to put this show together.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of that ties together. But if you're starting with your timelines, I would say definitely like look at it annually. So right after your recital ends, what's the first thing yet you need to be doing? Maybe you're deciding your recital theme. Maybe you're figuring out if you can book that next your venue for that next year, deciding those dates. And then when you have that timeline, then you back up everything like when are things due throughout the year. And then those timelines that are needed to be communicated out to your families, you can get that out sooner. It helps people just to kind of understand, and especially when it starts coming to like the fees that might be due, like costume fees, or if there's a participation fee that you like do tickets or whatever, then financially parents can plan for things as well. And that helps keep your families happy. It helps them to like also, plan throughout the year, vacations, all those things. See, I think the timeline ties right into your communication as well, but it's really important that you get that established as soon as possible.
Definitely. I think that is huge because there are people who do like to plan in advance and get those dates down, or like you mentioned, financially figure things out, make their budget.
Mhm.
Um, so, where do studios most commonly lose this consistency?
I think Kayla and I might have. Well, okay, we'll take it from what Kayla's take is and my take. So Kaylee can go. I think we might have two different things, but
Yeah, we have two different ones, but my big one is your backstage logistics.
Hmm.
What systems do you have in place when they show up to the theater? The biggest one is your check-in, check-out system. If that is a mess, that is an instant bad taste in a parent's mouth. If they don't feel safe dropping off their kid, if they don't know where to drop their kid off, if they don't know who's going to be watching their kid, if you can't find their kid when they go to pick up their kid, like these are, or in a quick, timely manner, if they're standing in line for 30 minutes, so for me, those backstage logistics and all of those systems, making sure that the parents know and that they feel comfortable because they all know how to drop off their kid at dance. They know
Right.
it's going to be an hour. They know what they're supposed to wear, but the recital is a whole different ball game and it can be very different. And for families that may have never grown up in the arts or performance, it's a whole new world. And having those systems in place are just really important and to have that consistency. So everybody knows what they're doing and we can let our students, it can be all about the kids. We want it to be all about the kids and not really what's happening backstage.
Yeah.
Mm.
And mine is probably communication. I get really frustrated when I can't find the information easily, when the communication is all over the place. Like, you know, now I have to go to Facebook for this. No, now it's an email. Now, no, now it was text. I'm like, whoa, whoa, where am I going for this information? So for me, like, then I had three kids in competition teams, as well as, you know, all that, being a teacher and all that. So to me, the communication really needs to get dialed in. Keep it simple, keep it clear, keep it timely. Like, just make sure that your communication is dialed in. And I do think there has to be some redundancy a little bit, because parents, yeah, as you know, they aren't always going to read the emails. They're not always
Right.
going to check the bulletin board or whatever it is. But I think if you can consistently direct them to that location of where this information is going to be found, you start to train your entire studio culture to look for the information here. And I think that's really important, so that there's one spot where everyone's just kind of getting that information. Whatever that is for your studio, that's the direction.
Yeah, definitely. I know that sometimes I'm going to call it out because I see this in Facebook groups all the time with studio owners.
Mm-hmm.
There's this frustration and blaming the customer for not knowing the information that they disseminated. And I think that we have to also look at ourselves, because it's our job to reach as many people as possible with whatever information it is. And instead of saying, well, it's in the email, why didn't they read it? What else could we do to ensure that these things are communicated? Because, as you mentioned, this is their most precious thing. It's their children, and they want to know what's going on. They want to feel a good feeling about turning them over for, in some cases, hours,
Yeah.
without knowing what's going on. So I think that it's just so important to communicate with kindness instead of the attitude that I'm seeing from some studios, where they're just quite literally angry at parents. But instead to say, okay, well, it's my job to communicate. And if they don't know it for some reason, maybe I need to check. Did their email bounce back? Maybe I should also send a text message, whatever it is, ensuring
Right.
that that happens.
Yeah, and I can tell you from my own personal experience, because not only did my kids take at the studio where I taught, but occasionally they would go and take at other studios. And I saw kind of across the board differences in the way that communication was approached. And even me, as a dance teacher, artistic director, been in the dance and arts my whole life, I can't tell you how frustrated I was with some of the communication choices that were made. And then when you're getting an email that is literally paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs, it's you know, it's, I mean, yeah, the information's there, but at some point in time as a parent, you're like, okay, this is just a lot right now. So I do think like it needs to be really clear. Really let it, if you're gonna choose email, make sure that your subject line is very concise. Like, you know, I don't know. I just feel like there's choices that can be made. But again, I think there should be a place where it's easy, like maybe on your website, where you can go and there's all the information there. All the questions that you might ask, it's all there, like an almost like an FAQ for recitals, you know, that is there. So
Yeah.
keeping it easy.
Is there a one point in the timeline where studios should just stop improvising and start standardizing?
I kind of feel like it's, unless you're doing an improv class, what is it? Improvising for recitals? What? Like, what does that
Yeah.
mean? I don't know if I
Improvising definitely needs to stay in improv class. The standardizing should start yesterday, or now at the beginning of your season. Like I think we've talked about, set your timeline, set your due dates. That's all happening in the summer. If you're waiting till March to tell your parents when that the recital's in May, that's you're gonna have a problem. So yeah, the time to standardize is today. Today's
Yeah,
the day.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think within that, you know, obviously there's flexibility. So like let's for any given task that needs to be accomplished for that recital, there is some flexibility that you have up until a certain point in time. So I mean, obviously within a month of the recital, everything should be completely dialed in my opinion. I mean, I think you backtrack, dance choreography should be done at a set time. It shouldn't still be ongoing when they're getting to dress rehearsal. That's kind of a no. Like music should be completely turned in and checked and cut and all that a month, how long is it that's comfortable to you? But if you put everything off to the last minute, you're going to be so overwhelmed and
Mm,
frustrated. It's like you're causing yourself a lot more problems when all these things are so easily handled or managed ahead of time. So make it easy for yourself, have these deadlines laid out. And then, yeah, if something needs to be adjusted, you have time to adjust. You're not frantic at the last minute. So, yeah, have a structure, have it standardized, recognize that you're going to have some flexibility within that at times, and that's okay. But at least the format, the outline of the recital, it's all there. Um, and then those details just start to get a little bit more dialed in as you go.
right. If you had to pick three systems that you would prioritize to make recital season smoother, like starting immediately, what would those three systems be?
I feel like we've talked about a lot of them, but I think number one for both Kayla and I would be like the timeline. Get your
Mhm.
annual timeline together. Know your deadlines, know your due dates, all of that. Get those dialed in. That would probably be the number one system is that the timeline.
Yeah, get your parents need to know when their participation fees are due, when their costume fees are due. Your staff needs to know when they have to have their music turned in by. So definitely that timeline is, we're gonna sound like a broken record by the end of this, but get your timeline dialed in. A second one for me, again, we're repeating ourselves, but that communication system. People need to know where to access the information. You need to have a systematic release of the information. How do you get it from you to your staff and then you to your families? And then that backstage, for me, the backstage flow. So those backstage systems, for me, I always think, okay, you just envision how did the students get here? Where do they go when they get here? How many people do I need to get them from A to B? How do they get from the dressing rooms to the stage? So all of that workflow needs to kind of happen and be part of your system making. People don't just show up. There's a way to get from A to B.
Mhm.
Um, and so all of that flow backstage needs to be thought through.
Yeah. How do you recommend dividing responsibilities so everything doesn't land on the studio owner?
I I feel like delegating is huge. That saves your sanity. I know it's hard sometimes you want to control everything yourself. And I just feel like that is a real it's not the best choice for yourself in so many ways. And so I would say start off by like write out all the individual tasks that you need to do to accomplish to build towards that recital, whether it be your costume choices, costume ordering, your music, your tech sheet, whatever, all the tasks that you have to accomplish. And then I think it's important to decide what's the most important things to you. What are the things that you really feel like you need to hang on to make sure that it's done exactly the way that you want. Because there are some things that sometimes we're like, no, somebody else can't. I had a studio owner. She was like, she was in charge of like blinging out everything. That was her. She loved it. But if somebody else did something, she'd look at it and go, thank you. No, like she probably would redo it. She was so nice about it, but it was just something everyone knew she was going to bling it. She was going to do it. She's that person. But so, what's the most, and granted, that's kind of a silly, thing in the whole scheme of things. But at the same time, there are certain things that we kind of each feel like is so important to us. Um, and so write that down and see, what can you delegate? And then deciding who within your staff, or maybe it's another person in your life that really wants to come and help or whatever, but who is it that you can trust to handle that, to be accountable for it, to follow up with it, to keep it organized. Be really conscientious about who you're selecting for those things because we've all had the experience. We put someone in charge of somebody who just lets it kind of fall through the cracks, and yeah, that doesn't feel good, and it just creates way more stress. So just being thoughtful about who you're assigning to that. So I mean, for example, like costuming. Maybe you want to be in charge of the ordering. That might be something that you want to handle yourself. But someone else can go get all your costume measurements. Someone else can organize those costumes once they come in and label them and whatnot and distribute them. Keep track of that. That's an easy thing for someone else to do. Um, Within like the dances that are going to be in your recital, your teachers can be, you need to be having that collaboration with your teachers. They should be responsible for getting their own music turned in a timely time frame. If they need help cutting their music, have either someone that can help. Sometimes you have other teachers that are really helpful with that. or you can do it if that's something that you want to do. But like, all those little details like that, tech sheets, teachers can turn tech sheets in. Just have to have a system for them getting that into you. So, but then you have to organize all that. So it's just each of those tasks that you have, who's going to be responsible for this, and then just lining it up, and then who's going to be your, like, I would say, like, almost like, who's your project manager? Is that you, or is that going to be somebody else? Some people have recital managers now. That's a good whole thing now, where they're the ones that are responsible for getting everything pulled together for that recital and organizing it all to, all within the show order and all that. So just, I think, find those people that can really assist you. I
Yeah.
think it's really important to delegate.
Yeah. And I love a flow chart. I'm a visual. I like to see it. And so one thing I recommend too is as you are writing down everything that you need to do, list what you have to do, who you have available to do it, and then create that flow chart. Like this is who I'm having charge for this, and they're going to report to this person, or I'm going to do this. And so, some sort of system within that delegating is important too, because we need to have a way to make sure all of those tasks are being completed. At least with my kids, just because I tell them to do something doesn't mean they're going to do it. So, so that follow through and having a system in place where we can check on things and we know that things aren't falling in through the cracks is really important. So whether that's a flow chart, whether that's a spreadsheet, whether that's an app you're using or something on your website, whatever that system looks like, delegating and dividing is really important, but we also need to make sure that we are creating a system within our studios to make sure that everything is getting done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know for me, one of the things that I delegated that I don't think I ever want back is having essentially someone who's the stage manager for the show, who does all
Yes.
of the cues, all of the lighting, the music, the this starts with these kids on stage, these kids in the wings, and all of that. Having someone who organizes that and then two people trained as backups to that person has been a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And they were just existing teachers
Yeah.
who they were dance majors or they were theater people who were just like, no, this has to happen. Like, and they got their binders and their spreadsheets and they were ready to roll. Because for me, that is not my strength at all. I'm the, oh, let's imagine this theme and tie it all in and make it, the artistic bit of it. But the
Yeah.
actual, how does it flow and make that happen flawlessly? I totally had to hand that over.
Yeah.
Um, as you both were talking, I was thinking about if you don't delegate, things are going to fall apart because there is no way that is humanly possible for you to be at front of house with tickets and questions, to be in all of the dressing rooms with the dancers and checking costumes, to check on the bathroom and who needs to get on stage, to run the music, to do the light cues. You can't do all those things simultaneously. So it is imperative that you delegate, whether it's a staff person or a volunteer, to get these things done so that you can put your mind at ease.
100%. 100%. I mean, yeah, you can't, it'd be nice if we could duplicate ourselves, but it's just, that's so not possible. But I do think I liked your point too about like the having people, like a couple people trained underneath them. I know that's, you have to have like that next generation that's coming in that can step up. Or if someone gets sick or heaven forbid there's an accident or something, like who can step in and take that slot. And I know for the shows that I always did, I don't remember ever having, well, maybe a couple, but for the most part, our studio owners did not run the stage from a side stage. There was maybe one studio owner that did that, but we always had two, one stage right, one stage left. That just worked with the venues that we had. And so there was always a backup. And then we had another person that had the entire master tech, everything ready to go, just on the off chance. But yeah, I think you're right. That's a huge one stage manager. I think someone who helps organize all your props, I think it's really great when you have somebody that can handle all your quick changes. I mean, yeah, all of those things. There's so many things that you really do need to delegate. You need to have responsible people in charge of those things.
Yeah.
And I like what you said when you said, I'm not a details person. I'm the artistic director kind of person. And so being self-aware enough to know like what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and be able to see that in your staff and know, okay, you are going to be a great doing this and you're going to be great doing that. That's what really indicates a great leader. And those leadership skills is when you can, it's one thing to delegate, but to be able to identify what jobs are meant for which people and what you are best at and what you're, and recognizing like, not my strong suit. That
Yeah.
is, vital for success and, to be a good leader. Because as studio owners, we're a lot of hats, and one of those hats is being the leader of your studio.
So we're gonna um, rapid fire do a few questions for you. So the first thing, one thing that studios are overcomplicating every year from your experience, what are you guys seeing?
I would say, in a general way, just trying to keep everybody happy. I know that
Hmm.
sounds
Ooh,
general,
that's a
but
good one.
it's hard because if you're always trying to make everybody else happy, then you're constantly adjusting, you're changing the classes because people are unhappy, whatever. But even when it comes to recital, like it's just you cannot make everybody happy all of the time. So the best thing to do is just try to get a consistency, try to keep everything super clear, keeping it fair, do the best you can with it. And then, you just can't always bend yourself into every which way that people want you to. So that to me was one thing, like just I see people do it. It's kind of a mistake, like all the time. They just constantly trying to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that ties in exactly with what you're wanting, but that was kind of what popped into my head.
Oh yeah. No, that is definitely something that people overcomplicate because it just takes an email from a comp mom who says, "Oh, she's got such and such and she can't do this. Could you move
Yep.
this?" And next thing you know, it's a snowball. Pardon the pun. We are recording this right after a major nor'easter with ice and snow everywhere, but it snowballs into this big issue because you move one little thing and then it impacts all these other classes and these other people. So, stay true to what you know you're doing right for the greater good, not for one individual.
Right.
Right. Right.
All right. What's the best way to reduce repetitive emails without sounding cold?
Okay, this is another one. Um, don't have information in an email. Like we're just gonna get rid of like have everything in a specific place that you're going to have your information, whether that be on your website, whether that be on the app, whether that's we're going to go old school and we're sticking it on a bulletin board. Have all of your information in one place. And then anytime anyone asks you, you can be kind and consistent and say, you know what? That is a great question. Please go to our website under the recital information. Or that is an excellent question. You can ask Miss Sally. She takes care of all of our recital stuff. Or that is a great question. Please refer to the recital packet that I handed you last week. And surprisingly, you say that enough times, no one's going to ask you for the information anymore.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
have to have that system in place and you have to follow through and have the information there.
And
So,
I think that's important across the board with all your staff and everything too, is teaching them, be the source of the source. You don't, maybe they don't know all the information, but if you say, oh, you know what, I'm not sure, but I know that the recital packet went out and it's posted on the website, you can get that information there. The other thing I was going to say too is that for those emails, especially as you get closer to recital time, you can automate. I mean, a lot of times you have automated responses to your emails. You can tailor those at the bottom or whatever. Say, if this is a recital question, please refer to our recital packet posted on the website, or please refer to your Prosody Backstage app if you're using it. But and for the information, right? So you have like, or you have it where it's directing them to where is that information going to be found. You train them to start looking for that answer themselves.
Mm. All right. One checklist you believe every studio should have.
I think Kaylee and I could probably say this in unison. The
the annual time frame is your time.
Yes, your timeline. That should
Yeah.
be, yes. Yep.
What's a small detail that makes the recital feel instantly more professional?
I mm. I think you're going to get something from both Kaylee and I differently, only because we each had different roles within recitals. Kaylee, I'll let you go first.
So for me, I think I mentioned it earlier, that's going to be your check-in and check-out system. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
If that's a mess, you're gonna have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that's kind of your back end. For me, on the front end, when I'm watching a show or putting on a show, To me, clean entrances and exits. It just, if it's not clean, if you've got kids just like stopping and then randomly just running off stage in chaos, like that just is so not professional to me. Not that it's terrible if you're just having a real recreational go, but show. But yeah, to me, the clean entrances and the exits can really like present whether or not it's going to be a professional take or not.
All right, this next one, I'm like, oh, this is spicy. Top recital red flag that predicts chaos.
Okay, this is gonna be me again. No organization to the backstage. I've had taken my kids to things and you show up and we don't know where to go. I don't see any adult. I don't know where I'm hunting to figure. Yeah, that backstage organization, if I come to your recital and even if they're the most fantastic dancers I have ever seen, if there's no backstage organization, I'm out. And I may have done that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think mine kind of ties in with that, but it would basically be if the dress rehearsal just is not planned out.
Ooh,
That if
yeah.
that whole dress rehearsal is just hot mess central, then I'm that's a red flag to me. Like what's happening right now? You just yeah, it has to be organized. Your dress rehearsal has to be organized.
Hmm. All right, what's the fastest way to stabilize if you're behind right now?
Uh, Call us.
That's right.
Uh,
We got you, girl. Um, but really, really, I would say first breathe. It's gonna be okay. And then just start working backwards, right? So pick, okay, this is when my recital is, and this is when I'm gonna have my dress rehearsal. So start with that timeline and then one foot in front of the other. First, you what classes are performing, what dances are performing. Let's do the show order. Then let's get the costumes, get our music. So just write that list down of everything you need to do, start delegating, and then just one little chunk at a time. You got it.
yeah.
All right. So, how does your software help studios create this consistent experience?
For the first thing is going to be tracking all of your stuff. There's going to be one place for all that information for your music, for your dances, for your costumes, your tech forms, your lineup order, your quick changes, your backstage assignment locations, your check in, check out system. All of that is going to be in one place, um, which I love that it's all in one place. And then we're also going to limit all the repetitive stuff that you tend to do. So once we do it once, it's in the system, you're creating your own database, and then we can just filter everything nice and easy for you.
Yeah, and I think within the app, it's built to start from a macro level down to a micro level. So meaning like you can start with the broad picture. Okay, I have these classes in my studio. I have these dancers in my studio. They're in these classes. And then as your teacher, because start the year off, you might not know what dances you're even going to do. The teachers can then start adding your dances. They can upload their music. They can create, all the things that Kaylee said, all the details. So it's like starts macro, then you start getting more detailed and detailed and detailed as you go throughout your season. It also has like an ability in there to put in like for events, important deadlines and timeframes. So that starts to get built out onto your calendar. It has actually a built check-in checklist for events. So it starts off with like, is your venue been secured? Basically, have you like reserved your venue? And it has a checklist of things that you can start to do. So that's built into the app as well. And then I also think, like we talked about earlier, how big communication is. That was one of the things that we really was important to us in developing this app and our software. There is just a lot of ways for communication to be handled and managed within the app. From the fact that our portal for parents is very personalized, so they're only going to see the things pertinent to their kids, the events that their kids are in, their kids' costumes, access to music, all those kind of things are already built in there. So a lot of those questions that you get about like, oh, question, hair, this and that, it's already there assuming you've put it in there. Like, right? Yeah, so it's in there. And then there's a calendar there that you can send out push notifications for reminders. You have, so there's a lot of things that are built in to the app. So that really helps with that communication. It's all can be accessed right there.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you have a favorite feature within the software?
I always have favorite features. It changes because I'll develop it and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm so excited about this feature. And sometimes it's the small things, but let me think.
I know mine.
Go ahead.
I love the tech forms. When I was doing my recital managing, having to hunt down people for their tech forms, and then I'm putting all the information in and all of that. I love being able to kind of organize all my tech forms. Oh, and the quick change identification. I push a button and it shows me all my quick changes, and I don't have to be on the floor with a highlighter. That's nice.
Mm.
One of my upcoming ones that I'm super excited about is what I'm calling show mode, and it's for the
Okay.
stage managers. And it's basically as you are real time running your show, each dance that comes up, you have your entire tech for that dance. And
Mhm.
then as you complete it, you check it off and it rolls to your next one. So you're constantly in real time with your show. And I'm very excited to roll that out because as a stage manager, prior to using Prosody Backstage, it was always like this basically like a notebook with like a printout of a Google spreadsheet with those like, 3 pages long or whatever. It was just like, and you're flipping and you're like, backstage and it was
Yeah.
like, it works, you get it done. But with the app, it's so nice because you can, even if you have your laptop there or whatever device you're using, it's just all right there. But I like the show mode because then it like keeps you like in current time with, so that's not released yet, but that is one of my favorite features that's coming up. I think as a parent, I really like the ability to go to each of my kids, see what well there is a feature called the monthly snapshot. And so I
Okay.
see for that month, what is my kid doing this month? And it from there it goes into like, oh, you're in this event. This is your show order. So I already see like what to expect for my kids like that month. And if they don't have anything for that month, there's just nothing for that month. But that's kind of a nice one just as a snapshot, because especially when you have multiple kids to keep track of like all the kids. So that's kind of one, like a one snapshot of what you have going on for that month is nice.
Yeah. So, if people want to learn more and find out more about Prosody, where can they go and find you online?
Yeah, you can go to our website, which is prosodyperformancearts.com. Go on there. There is a chat feature there. It's not a bot. You're just messaging me, you're texting me. It's me.
It's not
So
AI. That's
it's not a
awesome.
bot. It's me.
It's Kaylee.
Um, so you can contact us that way. You can email us at info@prosodyperformancearts.com. And we're also on all the socials on Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have one final question. Is there like a preferred time for people to get started working with your software? Like we talked about timeline a lot. Is
Mhm.
there kind of a, if it was an ideal kind of thing, is there like a time that people should jump on and start to learn? Because I'm imagining, like with anything new, there's a bit of a learning curve. So should
Yeah.
people plan ahead?
The best time is right before your season when you're doing all of that planning and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're already in the process and you're feeling like, oh no, I really need some help,
Yeah.
we are very hands-on. So
Okay.
basically what would happen if you're like, no, I really need help right now, but I'm already this far deep. Um, what would happen is we would work with you. I'd see what you have so far and we'd get you set up and caught up real fast. So really anytime
Okay, great.
is would be great. Our goal is not to be just a system you sign up with and then you try and call and you never talk to anybody. When you get our system, you're really getting someone on your team. So, whatever our mission is to just help studio owners um, get some joy back into dancing and a little less stress. So, that's, I would say,
Mm.
anytime. Would love to chat.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you both for joining us today. I'm going to put the links to their website and the email address in the show notes so that people, if you're driving, you don't have to scroll back to find out what that email address was. So, thank you again so much for joining us. And I look forward to the next time we get together. Take care.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Thank you.